Welcome to A Dash of Life podcast, where every episode brings you a touch of spirit, a pinch of passion, and a zest for life.
Hello, welcome to episode 8 of A Dash of Life podcast. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. If you love this message, please like, share, and certainly subscribe to the channel. This episode, we are focusing on taking your power back. And a lot of times, it's not conscious. Like a lot of times we give up our power and we really don't even recognize it or realize it. So I want you to think about that as we walk through this episode, but also think about, have you given someone else power over your life, but even also power over a certain aspect of your life? And again, many times this is not something that we actively do. So it's good to do an assessment of where you are, how you act, certain things that you do, and whether or not that is a result of something that occurred or due to another person. All right, so I'm excited for this episode. Let's get into this and unpack this. And I hope that something really resonates with you. When we talk about taking your power back, it certainly is a journey. And with many things that I've talked about so far in the podcast, a lot of this stuff is not going to happen overnight. It requires some consistent and intentional work. And so just keep that in mind as you maybe reflect and internally look at how you're showing up and whether or not you need to make changes. Recognizing that you need to change is the first step, of course. And so be self-compassionate, and take your time with it. It's not something that's going to come overnight. So as we talk about having given our power up to someone or something, you have to think about, maybe it was not intentional, maybe it was unintentional. And the key here is that the event or the person still controls you. I mentioned it already, but it controls how you show up. It controls how you view others. It controls how you allow people to get close to you. It controls certain things that you do. Well, I have to do this because this happened before, and this is the only way that I can do it. That might be controlling you. And in order for you to be and remain completely free in this dash or in this life, you cannot allow past events or certain people control how you show up to the world. You have to be intentional in not allowing that control over you. Past events may certainly change you. You know, as we experience stuff, we do change. However, this is not the point. Yes, you are going to change based off of how you were treated previously. You are going to change based off of how an event occurred, maybe a traumatic experience. But the key here is not to allow it to control you in the future. And it's difficult because, and I talk about this in episode 2, but when we have offenses against us, we hold on to the offense as opposed to forgiving, letting it go, burying it, and, just move forward from that. Yes, it's going to change you, but it should not control you. So in this episode, we are going to dive into certain tools, factors, things that you can do for yourself to release that control. Also to prevent a certain individual or a certain thing from controlling you and how you show up. So we're gonna dive deep into that, and hopefully, at the end of this episode, you will be able to make a conscious decision that you will not allow past events, past people in your life control you and how you show up. Why? Why do people allow others to control them, or previous incidences to control them? Well, there's several different factors in that, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to spend more time on how and what tools you can use to help you release that. So that's going to be my primary focus in this episode, but I think it's worth mentioning, why people allow certain controls in their lives and why they relinquish control to another person or situation. Fear. We talked about fear previously, and I talk about fear just in general quite a bit within what I do on social media. But fear, we cannot allow fear to control our lives. Whether it's fear of rejection or fear of change, you may have given up your power to somebody because you felt like they were going to reject you if you did not. And you're still living with that today. Low self-esteem, self-worth. The last episode was on self-worth and how you can increase that and work on that. And truly, if you love yourself enough, you will not let anyone take your power. Unresolved past trauma. And what I'm going to say to this, because people hold on to traumas, and I'm not saying like you have to get over it. Whatever happened to you happened to you. And if you've had a past trauma, I highly recommend that you seek therapy for it, because it's controlling you. It's controlling how you show up to the world. It's controlling how you view yourself. And if you truly want to be free and unattached, then there's some work that needs to be done there. Never will you hear me judge anyone's journey when it comes to trauma, because I know that trauma completely impacts how you move forward, and it does. It certainly controls how you show up. And I'll tell you, I had some traumatic experiences when I was younger, and I didn't trust people. Like this is not even like people close to me. I did not trust people when it came to just general situations. So I wouldn't hardly engage with people and talk to people just because I felt I didn't think about me being safe and being safe in that moment. So it's just a quick example, but I know how trauma changes you and orchestrates how you move forward and show up in life. I talked about people pleasing. No, just get out of that. Get out of that. Because a lot of times what you're doing for somebody, it doesn't even matter to them. It may to some, but don't do it because you're trying to please another person. Do it because it's something that you feel in your heart that you need to do. And then lastly, codependency, or being dependent on another person. I talked about that as well. And we have to get to a point in life where we are okay with just us. And I talked about all of this. And that's why I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we have to be completely accepting of ourselves when we are naked, completely. Everything that we feel like, is an opportunity, or, something that we may be insecure about. No, this is you. This is how you show up. And if people don't like it, peace out. Go. Just find your people. Your people are out there for sure. So I hope that starts, the episode with some encouragement. And really, truly, let's get into this journey. And I want to say, this is a journey. Life is a journey. And so when we think about it that way, we're not, we have the opportunities to change, to keep going, to alter whatever it is that we feel like is not for our best selves. And this journey involves self discovery, self acceptance, awareness, courage, and self compassion. And I'm sure you've heard me talk about many of those. All right. So thank you for joining, and let's get into some more of this. So, when we talk about awareness, uh, sometimes people aren't fully aware that they've given their power away. So, when you start this work, or even just thinking about it, do an assessment of how and where you felt you lost the power. This is a area that requires you to be completely honest with yourself. It requires you to examine areas where you may feel, resentment, dissatisfaction, or a sense of obligation rather than a genuine choice. Like, you might have decided to do something because you felt obligated to do it, as opposed to, I'm choosing to do this. So when you have that, uh, there may be some resentment that is attached to that. So when you start to look at that and do your assessment, just be mindful of that. And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but give yourself some compassion when you start thinking about that and delving into those types of feelings that you have. Courage. Courage isn't necessarily the absence of fear. It is the position. Even if I'm fearful, I am not going to let this stop me from doing what I need to do. And so one part of this is to, certainly you've heard me talk about it before, setting boundaries. So setting boundaries with a particular person, maybe you're in a toxic relationship and you are tired of that person controlling you. There's a boundary that needs to be set. However, if you decide to leave that relationship because it is not healthy for you, make sure you do it safely. There are lots of resources to help you do that. Do not try to do it on your own. Ensure that you have a safety net there that you can fall into if you decide to leave that kind of situation. So, in order for you to really truly reclaim your power, you have to set those boundaries. Maybe somebody makes decisions for you. Having the courage to prevent that or stop somebody from doing that is very much key in order for you to regain your power. You're going to have to stand up for yourself. You also probably need to challenge your own limiting beliefs. Do you believe that you can do anything? Do you believe that you are worthy of having the best? If you don't, do some work on that as well. And maybe check out, the last episode on self-worth. But you deserve the best that the world has to offer, regardless of previous decisions. And I'll get into that when I talk about forgiveness. And so having the courage also is basically taking a step for yourself and taking action despite having fears or uncertainties. Self-compassion. This is something that I'm going to harp on because, I talked about self-compassion previously, and it is most definitely very much intertwined into taking your power back. Again, a lot of times when we relinquish our power to somebody else, it's unintentional. And sometimes we don't even think about it. It's just something that happened, and then later on we're like, wait, I shouldn't have done that, or, this is too much. So Be self-compassionate to yourself, of course, and think about you as a person, maybe as a child of God. You deserve the best. And we don't always have the correct information or enough information to make certain decisions. This, again, I'll repeat, this is a journey, right? So you have to look at forgiveness, mistakes, setbacks. You have to look at it as part of the process. Not that, you did something and you're a bad person and that's the end of it. No. You made a decision. Maybe it wasn't the best decision, but you can come back from that. You can learn from it, change how you operate moving forward, and just understand that it is a process. Life is a process. It's a process and not necessarily a failure, because I don't and I don't know if I believe in failures. I'm not going to say I don't completely believe that some things are failures, but I don't know if I truly believe that, because if we even have the courage to step out there and do something and it may not work out, we still learn from the experience, right? So we need to maybe get rid of that word failure. And in that instance, be more compassionate to ourselves. Just a thought. So these are just some factors that you can use to assess where you are and whether or not you need to do work. Maybe you have a very strong sense of self-worth and you are outspoken enough where you can stand up for yourself. That's awesome. That is amazing. Stay in that, because you never know. Some of your strongest people can have somebody come through, rock their entire world, and change how they show up. So if you are one of those people, kudos to you. Keep doing that. Stay in it, and just assess every now and again, if you need work. All right, so I'm going to transition into how do we prevent this transfer of power. This requires intentional practices of setting boundaries that reinforce self-respect and awareness. So, how do we do that? Well, we've talked about it before. I love to talk about it. Is setting boundaries. You've already heard me talk about that. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but we have to be able to understand ourselves and whether or not we can give to somebody. And having the ability to set a boundary is, one, it's necessary, but also two, it respects you and your time and your ability to do things and not necessarily overextend yourself. So that's all I'm going to say about boundaries, because I have had many different discussions throughout the podcast about that. So listen to the other episodes. Cultivate self-awareness. Are you completely aware of who you are as your own person? If you are completely aware of yourself and you have that self-awareness, you will have the capability of understanding when you start or when you begin to relinquish power over a situation or to someone. Mentioned it just a little bit ago, but that could be something as simple as agreeing to something that you didn't want to do. Why are you agreeing to it? Now, there's a caveat there. There's always some special circumstance or whatever. You may not want to help your parents, but your parents need help, right? That's different. That is different unless your parents are controlling you. Or it could be, I mentioned it already, but letting someone make decisions for you. Why are you doing that? Why are you allowing someone else to make decisions for you? if you're in a relationship, um, that may be a little bit different. And again, all things are not all things. You'll hear me say all the time that n- nothing is 100%, right? There's always outliers, there's always situations that will require something different. But why are you allowing someone to make decisions for you? If it's your spouse, if you have a hard time making decisions and you're allowing your spouse to do that, there might be some work that needs to be done there. Make a decision. What do you want? What do you want? Ask yourself that question. What do you want? And I would say lastly but not least is compromising on your values. I talked about values last episode, but if you are convicted in something, then you're going to have to stand up for that. You're going to have to stand up for that so that you do not allow another person to change how you're acting and showing up. Lots to think about here. Now, I'm going to get into this is probably one of the most favorite of mine in terms of topic. I, we have so much work to do with communication that it should be a course maybe in high school, because younger kids, they don't completely grasp the whole entire concept. All they know is what they know. But when it comes to adults communicating, I think we need several courses on it. And for this one specifically, I'm going to talk about assertive communication and how that can impact whether or not you give your power to someone, or taking your power back from someone, or preventing it from transferring. That's the key, preventing that transfer of power. So when you talk about assertive communication, you're going to use I statements. I am this. I feel this, right? Because it is you. You are standing up for what you believe in. You are standing up for what you're convicted in. You are standing up for what you want. It's just as simple as that. Now, some people may not be able to do that, but here's where the work is. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this too. Be direct and specific. And I think a lot of times when people communicate, they assume things. They assume that the context is there. But when you are direct and you are specific with your communication, there is no room for any assumptions to be made. And so, as you continue to get comfortable with communicating directly and specifically, you will find that misunderstandings, misinterpretations, they all leave. And, there's no room for them any longer. Maintain a calm and steady tone. If you are feeling convicted about something, there's no reason for you to yell to get your point across. Some people think so. Some people operate in that stage where they yell just to get their point across, and they think it's okay. But for me, and I will say, as I continue my own work, I understand that yelling is violent. Yelling is violence. There's no reason for an adult to have a conversation with somebody and yell at them. There's no reason for it. Be an adult, calm yourself, speak articulately, and talk with a steady tone. Why are you yelling? This is for my New Yorkers too, because Yelling. My mom always used to tell us, like, I'm not yelling, I'm just raising my voice. Okay, what's the difference? Sorry, mom. But New Yorkers, just in general, very much hotheads and raise their voices like you wouldn't believe. And to me, there's maybe some situations where it's necessary, but if you are talking to somebody and you are trying to stand up for yourself, then yelling has no place for it. Practice, practice active listening. Mm. We do have two ears for a reason, and we hear it all the time. People listen to respond. They don't listen to hear and understand what is being said because they're too busy worried about what their point is and trying to get their point across, but they've completely missed the whole point of what someone else has said. So practice active listening where you are taking in the information and you are understanding what that other person's point is, and you can do a confirmation statement where this is what I've heard you say, or I hear that you are saying this, and then get corrections if you're not right. But that's how communication works. Effective communication. Express appreciation and understanding. I feel like we need to do this more just in general, expressing understanding and appreciation. And again, when you are having a conversation with somebody, one, appreciate their time, right? They've taken the time to sit and talk to you or to listen to you. So appreciate their time and let them know, like, I completely appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, and try to understand their point as well. Saying no with clarity and respect. Respect is a key word here. One, respect yourself enough to tell someone no, but also respect them in their response and how you saying no to them is going to impact them. That's a different position. That is really a different position. But if we all learn to communicate effectively, then we wouldn't have to worry about somebody else's response when we tell them no. That might be difficult for some. What do you mean no? What do you mean no? Are you kidding me? Like, what? Also, if you say no with clarity, they understand that that's your position, right? But if you're like, got your head down and you're like, no, I'm not going to take you for your word, I'm not going to take you for what you just told me. So keep that in mind as well. When you say no, be convicted in that and be clear about it. I kind of skipped ahead, but use confident body language. Confident body language. Stand up straight, don't cross your arms down. Look the person in the eye. That also is something that people need to work on. And I'll tell you, like, when a lot of times when I talk to people, like, I'll be looking forward, maybe not necessarily at them, but I will be, going back and forth. It just depends on who I'm talking to and the topic. Like, if it was work or something, I would definitely be looking somebody in the eye. But personally, I'm more, like, thinking thoughts and then saying, prepare and practice. If this is new to you, there's a lot of people out here who don't have a voice, really. I was one of those people for a long time. I didn't know how to use my voice, and didn't really. I was not confident in that, and so if that's you, then prepare, practice with somebody else, so that you at least have some of that memory for how you're going to say your words and things like that. Stick to the facts. A lot of times when we're communicating, we talk about our feelings as well, right? Like, you never listen to me. You always do this. Well, I mean, maybe it's an always, but when that's going to shut somebody down. If you go to somebody, you're having a conversation with them and you're like, you always do this. Well, one, they're going to be on the defense because of what was said and how it was said. But also, they're probably not going to listen to you because they're like, oh, here she goes again. Or here he goes again. Like, for real, like, I always do what? Always. So when you are talking to someone, and this is assertive communication again, right? We're going to repeat that. But when you are talking to somebody and you want a particular response out of them, stick to the facts. Stick to the facts. You know, the other day when you came in the house, I wasn't appreciative of your lack of affection, you know, something like that. This is what you said, and how am I to interpret that? You know, very much stick to the facts of what happened as opposed to you always or you never, because that's going to shut somebody off real quick. Acknowledge your mistakes and be open to feedback. We are not perfect. We do not have perfect action all the time. And so there might be an opportunity or there might be a situation where you have to acknowledge that you made a mistake and that you need to apologize to a certain person. A lot of people have trouble with that, but the more that you be 100% and completely open with yourself that you are not perfect, your relationships will certainly change. And then I talked about this before, so I just want to reiterate to avoid an over dependence or seeking validation from someone else. It's not necessary. You might have a situation where you need to check in with somebody, like, am I off key here or off kilter or whatever? But for the most part, you don't need others' validations for what you feel in your heart and mind, that in your soul, that you feel are your values and that convicts you. You don't need others' validations for that. And then be aware, recognize manipulative behavior. There's a lot of manipulative people out here who just take advantage of others. You know, take a step back and assess the situation and really truly think about, is this person really trying to manipulate me? And if so, cut it right there, curb it. And then I'm going to end with engage in self-care and personal development. You are responsible for you. Life is what you make it. And no one is going to make improvements in your life, but you. You have to do it. You have to do the work. You got to do the seeking, seeking knowledge. You have to do that. And I think I'm over time, but when we talk about giving our power away, we have to completely understand who we are as a person. We have to understand our values. We have to understand our convictions. Because if we don't know that and we don't have that, then what are we standing up for? Are you just doing things? Are you a people pleaser and you're just doing things because other people are doing them? But what are your convictions? What are your values? And once you understand that, then you certainly will be set up in a position to not allow somebody to take your power. So I thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like and share it if you feel like it'll resonate with someone. And also subscribe to the channel, A Dash of Life Podcast. Thank you all. See you on the next episode. And I'm not quite sure what that's going to be yet, but I'll make some announcements. All right, take care.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of A Dash of Life podcast. I hope today's conversation added a touch of spirit, a pinch of passion, and a zest for life to your day.